We're just going to give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we will get started. Okay, let's get going then. So thanks for joining today. Hope everybody had a lovely bank holiday weekend if you're in the UK. And in terms of the session today, here's what we're going to go through. We'll do a quick intro, then we'll get into the topics of human risk management. What is it? We'll spend a minute talking about blanket training, induction training, why we think that doesn't really work anymore. What are some of the misconceptions of human risk? Maybe people think we don't need to think about it. Alex is going to talk to us about uSecure and give us an overview. Then we'll do a bit more of a holistic look because uSecure is only really one part of this overall. So there's behaviour, technical and process layers to consider. Culture is really important in delivering a successful human risk management program. We'll give you a couple of things to think about that are free and just cost your time. And then we'll finish with some questions. So if you do have some along the way, just pop them in the comments, please. Just in terms of myself and speakers today, obviously, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Freeman, the Managed Services Director at Klipboard IT. I run the team, and we've got Alex with us as well. Alex, you want to give us a quick bit of background on yourself and your journey?
Sure thing. Thanks, Liam. Yeah, so I'm Alex, been working for uSecure for about 6 years now, primarily focusing on the platform, improving it, working on the content, and so on.
Okay. So what does your day-to-day look like, Alex, in terms of working at uSecure?
It's mostly, I would say, about onboarding customers and making sure they're like properly set up to, I guess, get the most out of value from the platform. Really, because we're going to talk about that later, but every client is different, every person is different. So you want to make sure that you adapt the content and the platform for everyone.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. Really interesting. All right. Just in terms of these sessions, so we had last month a session about backup for Microsoft 365. We looked at things like data loss. We had a Acronis on there as well. If that's of interest to you, please go back through your various Clipboard emails and you can find information about that or speak to your account manager. Today, obviously, we're talking about risk, so we're really focusing on prevention more than ever. But next month, we'll have a session with Petra Security. We're talking about managed detection and response. So that's more of a detection-based session. And we'll be finishing talking about email and how do you lock down the front door as well as we finish the series off. So let's get into human risk. What is it? I mean, Alex, have you ever found a USB stick in the car park and plugged it in? Because I think if I found a USB stick in the car park, I would be really pushed to think about plugging that in.
Honestly, it would be very tempting. I feel like, you know what, maybe like 5-10 years ago, I would have been a bit like, how about I try that? But like now, honestly, through like training and what's happening these days, you're a bit more careful, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And, you know, that's a light-hearted way of starting this off. But in all honesty, those questions that are on the right-hand side, I think these are the kind of questions that users are having day to day in the business about their IT and their systems and their experience. You know, I've had a customer recently ask me about hotel Wi-Fi. Is it safe to work on, to do finance work whilst on holiday, for example? And so the questions are how it's playing out. But on the left-hand side, the sort of concise definition. Ultimately, it's about the people, right, in the business and their knowledge, their awareness, their attitude to security, how that plays out in their decisions and their behaviours that ultimately leads to how exposed the business is to things like loss or harm. And the management of that is essentially standing back and saying, okay, we're going to identify where those risks are. We're going to perhaps prioritize them, and then we're going to apply resources to them. And that, when I say resources, that isn't just get uSecure and everything is wonderful and there's no risk, right? This is, as you'll see as we go through, it's a broader play where there's technology and process involved as well. But the goal is obviously to reduce the number of incidents and the blast radius and the impact of those incidents as well. Let's talk about blanket training or induction training. You know, when you join the business, maybe you have to sign a document, or IT come and sit down and talk to all the new starters for 5 minutes and tell you what to do and what not to do. You know, that realistically is nothing more than a box ticking exercise, unfortunately, because the real problem is that risk isn't distributed evenly throughout the business. And as we keep going through these topics, you're going to understand that risk is more focused on roles than individuals ultimately. Many businesses have implemented stuff like phishing simulation, which is a better step than a blanket induction training, but it only really focuses on one particular area. So, you know, it's only one threat. What about the USB stick in the car park, for example? And that's where human risk management is different, in the sense that it's a broader program with a clear mandate to reduce the risk through the change of behavior. So it's different. And just really focusing on that topic about the people and the roles. If you're an IT person, many of you are probably sitting here now thinking, you know, oh, I know about Fred or whoever it is, he always clicks all the emails. Well, actually, yes, that is true to an extent, but you need to step back, and to have a measurable impact, you need to really think about the broader picture here of the roles, right? And the attacks that are being sent to each person in each role at each time. So just look at the matrix for a second and work out. You'll see that it's, you know, it's very much dependent on what is coming into that person and what they're doing in their role. So if I sent a investor proposal document to someone in the warehouse, he's probably going to say, yeah, you know, great, not interested, move on, or it's obviously phishing. If I send that to my exec team, then they're going to be much more interested, because that's the kind of work that they're doing every single day. The same goes with the finance people. You know, if your accounts payable are receiving invoices all day and someone sends them an invoice, they're much more likely to click that too. So it really starts to get into the specifics of the role rather than the people in the business. And that's where you get into the danger zone, right? So when the attack looks like the job that that person is doing, that's where the two circles kind of overlap. You know, that's where the clicks can happen. Yeah. From my own perspective, as an IT person responsible for looking after things like email, you know, if I got an email to me saying, oh, your email system is going to be shut down in 10 minutes, or if you don't do these things and step through this process, you know, I'm going to look at that and go, oh, okay, that's, you know, that's my role. That's my responsibility. That's going to make me feel like I need to do something. And that's my danger zone there, where those two things overlap. I mean, Alex, do you have any thoughts on sort of the roles and the specifics around that kind of area?
No, I think it's very, very relevant, because obviously, even especially now through AI, hackers can spend so much less time trying to focus on specific people. They can find your email address very quickly and can send like, hyper targeted attacks. Can be like a ransomware, it can be like a phishing attack with like an SMS or voice call with fakes. They're like unlimited possibilities now. And yeah, you're right. People will be targeted, like finance, obviously upper management, but even people who work, like even warehouse workers. It can be anyone in the business realistically now. So
Absolutely. It's all about the roles. If we think about some of the misconceptions for a minute about human risk, the first one, and you know, I bang on a lot about culture in this because it's really important, but even if you do everything that we're telling you today, you're still going to get some clicks in the business, and you need to frame this from day one. If you're you know, promoting the benefits of this to the business, you need to set the mindset that actually those clicks aren't a failure. They're actually a signal to you. And think about that diagram we just showed, that attacker's tactic worked on that person in that role at that time. And that's really useful for you as the person perhaps who's responsible for IT or security or coordinating the risk, for example, right? The more of that you get, the more value you can deliver back into the business in strengthening the program of reducing the risk to the business. So really important. And just a few, I don't need to think about this, points as well. So the first one, we've got Microsoft 365 and that's got security built in. And Alex, you're just speaking exactly to some of these things a minute ago. So that is a detection alone strategy. There's no prevention in just having Microsoft 365. Whilst it can catch a lot of stuff, as Alex was saying there, the attacks become so crafted and specific. And even if you put things in front of Microsoft 365, like Mimecast or other gateways, there are going to be things that get through. So just relying on detection isn't necessarily going to be enough. And that isn't going to help you if your staff pick up a USB stick in the car park or scan a QR code and things like that. Then you've got the middle one, which is that our IT team handles security. It's not an exec issue. Well, IT team handles the technology, but really this is leadership, right? We need people to feel safe reporting a click. We need to have robust business processes that say before you can transfer money, it has to go to XYZ person, for example, right? IT can't fix those problems for you that help really deliver a measurable risk reduction within the business. And on the right-hand side, really, again, this is what you were just saying, Alex. So we're too small, right? So attackers are targeting the roles in the business. And actually, if you think about accounts payable and an invoice mailbox, that's not really that different between a 50 user business or a 500 user business, or maybe even 1,000. They're the same process. And if you're thinking that you're small and they won't know about you, if anyone in your network gets compromised, then immediately they're going to scrape all the emails and everything that everyone's sent out of that, and you're going to be part of that, and you're going to get on their radar as well. So those aren't going to work either. So I'm going to hand over to Alex now, give us a bit of an overview in terms of uSecure.
Perfect, thanks, Liam. So just a couple of things about the uSecure as a company. So we were founded in 2016, and we're based in Manchester in the UK, and we work with almost 500,000 people across the globe now. And we're all about what we call human risk management. So it's really linked to what Liam was saying about focusing on the person, on the individual, because everyone's different. So we want to make sure that we provide, again, tailored content, like a tailored, effectively, like program for every employee.
So next slide, yeah. There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, the human element is extremely important. 74% of breaches is because of that. The insufficient user training is a big one, because typically in companies, people will be trained maybe once a year or twice a year with like a 1 hour long webinar about cybersecurity that will tackle like loads of different topics. And we've all been in those like kinds of conferences, like all of us, where like you listen for like 10 minutes, then you're on your phone, then you forgot what the guy was saying, then you listen again half an hour later. Like it doesn't work. Again, people are different. You cannot train the dev team the same way as like house workers, for example. So we think that having really short training courses more frequently, maybe like once a month, is a lot better than having these like big sessions that would be like once a year. Working remotely as well, the culture has shifted a little bit, because before everyone would be in the office together. So people would speak. Someone would get an email that's a bit suspicious. They would ask the guy next to them, be like, "Hey, like, what do you think this is?" It'll be a lot more sharing inside the business. But now everyone works at home. People talk less. So it's also impacted like human error, really. The policy process is quite similar. Companies really need to have a set of, I guess, processes in place that will explain to employees, if you get a weird email, what do you do with it? Because if it's undocumented, people are going to be confused. They might click on something wrong, or they might just delete the email when another colleague could get caught by it. But if they reported it, then it wouldn't have happened. So that's also something people need to be aware of. And yeah, AI threats is a huge one, obviously. As Liam and I said earlier, attacks now are very targeted. They also look a million times more realistic than before. Because I'm sure, Liam, your customers had this before, where like they would get an email filled with spelling mistakes, come with like Amazon with like an S, and they look really poorly, and people don't get caught by those. But I'm sure now you get customers sending you emails. I'm guessing they look quite realistic, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've had customers that have had things like spear phishing attacks where they've had a domain that looks really like their domain set up, for example. So then the emails, are really hard for the average user to spot. And as you say, the copying of the content now. So how pixel perfect they are when you compare them side by side. Yeah, it's really hard nowadays to sort of differentiate.
Yeah. Compliance is obviously a big one. It used to be a bigger thing for larger companies, but now everyone's affected. Even if you're a small business, you need to be compliant with, at least it can be ISO, it can be NIS2 if you're based in mainland Europe, Cyber Essentials. So now companies will need to do, again, training and phishing comes from that. It will be included if you want to become compliant. So that's why having a platform like uSecure, but even having like, again, like an MSP partner is key, because it's extremely difficult to manage. Liam, you spoke about this earlier, like about the IT team. Typically, an IT team has to do a million things. Like they have to do so much. So asking them to also do compliance, which ISO, you need like a million things to be ISO compliant. Working with an MSP company is like a key thing for that. But yeah, what's your experience being like actually, Liam? I'm guessing you guys get asked for a lot by customers for like compliance, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Cyber Essentials in the UK is growing more and more now, and we're finding that more and more customers, as a way of them winning customers, especially if it's government, for example, or councils. Then being Cyber Essentials compliant is part of winning that tender. Without it, you're not gonna get that business. So, it's starting finally. I think after many years of sort of the finance of the world being sort of the PCI and things like that. I think it is slowly starting to filter down, and the NCSC have done a great job, I think, in pushing that as well. But like you say, it is another thing that the business has to deal with in terms of it falls to IT's pile of stuff that they have to solve, along with everything else with a chip in it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. So now a bit more about uSecure specifically, how it ties into compliance and training. So we'll touch on that in a sec, but effectively you've got a couple of different things from the platform that helps with the human risk management aspect of things. So you can have a couple of different features that will be like interlinked really. Like a training platform, a phishing platform as well. So we're going to train people on cybersecurity. At the same time, we're going to test them through phishing emails to see how they can react to them. And we'll also include some policy management. So documentation we can send to employees about processes, which is what I spoke about earlier. So yeah, we can dig a bit deeper into this in a sec. And yeah, again, it's linked to what we were saying earlier. It's all about training people specifically because everyone's different. So it's about offering users like a tailored program for them that will cover their gaps, the knowledge gaps about cybersecurity. And because there's so many topics that you can cover, having a system really dedicated for that is really important.
Yeah, that's great. So it's essentially building out with the gap analysis where their weak spots are, and then tailoring the sort of content of the training to what they specifically need to train in. So if somebody actually joined the business, Alex, who maybe has been trained really well in a previous role, then this is going to identify their sort of skills and weak areas, and then train them accordingly. In the same way, if you've trained all your staff for a long time, and actually your staff level is getting quite good in terms of where they are, and then you hire someone who's never been trained, you're going to need to have a different program then, in essence, to everyone else, right?
That's exactly it, especially for new starters, because if you're a company and you have like 5 new joiners, you're
Mm.
not going to know how much they know about cybersecurity. It's not possible. So having
Yeah.
this initial quiz, as you said, Liam, that able to like give the company, I guess, an overview of what the employees know about. If you see this correlate on everything from the quiz, you can be a bit like, okay, well, those people, we need to train them like during the inductions, like as soon as possible.
Mm.
Because especially hackers know about this. They know about new employees, and they know that maybe like MFA hasn't been set up yet because too
Yeah.
early in the induction. So they're going to try to send a phishing email right before that. So you have to be very
Mm.
careful about
That's really interesting, and you're right, because the adoption of these kind of products is still not uniform. Every employee joining is like a gamble or roll of the dice, right? In terms of like how good they're going to be or how bad they're going to be, and that's when you look at what this can do and how it can adapt. That's the really interesting feature, I think, that this makes a difference.
that. For sure. A quick case study, because again, it's all about being able to show trends and how the company became better through the training, through the phishing. For example, from this specific client, we saw that the compromise rate from the phishing decreased by almost 30% after year one, which is really good because typically, again, let me know if that happened to customers as well, but during the first campaign, lots of people get compromised. Typically, the compromise rate can be like very high, and it decreases over time because people now they've done the courses, they've been trained through the phishing simulations, so they become more aware of things. Is that what you've been feeling as well,
Yeah.
Liam?
No, absolutely. The first run is carnage normally. If it's a fresh, never been sort of ran before, environment. The first run will be, a bit of a bloodbath to an extent, but then after that, you start to see the measure, improving. We come back to what we talked about, reducing risk and the program being effective.
Yeah, exactly. More on the courses, then typically you can have like a 30%, I guess, increase from the user awareness, because it becomes like a ritual and people get quite into it. Obviously, you have a first course to take care of, but afterwards, if you get your monthly course, you get it like the last Friday of the month before leaving work. It's a quick video, couple of questions. People tend to react really well to them, again, because it's tailored, because we're not going to send everyone the same course. We're going to be able to offer them what they need to be trained on realistically. So the adoption rate is up to 94% for the specific client. Again, it's because it's a monthly course. If it was like a 20-minute course every 2 weeks, it would be possible. But same thing, Liam, do you think, is that what you've seen as well with customers who use uSecure? Like typically pretty high compromise, completion rates, and people adopt with it quite well?
Yeah, absolutely. We found it. Yeah, and I think the bite-sized nature of it is absolutely well received by a lot of people who maybe view IT as a bit of a necessary evil, should we say? But they don't really want to have a task to be sat at the computer watching a video for the next 30 minutes and then answering questions on it. They want to just really know what they need to know as quickly as possible. And that through being adaptive and being a bite-sized sort of targeted content for them, I think that's been well received.
Perfect. Yeah, because realistically, I'm guessing you agree with me, Liam, no one wants to do courses. No one gets up in the morning and is like, I want to do my 5-minute course about cybersecurity. So it's all about, they still need to be trained. So it's about finding the balance between you have to train them, but not too much, not too often. It needs to be tailored. It's really a balance to get with.
For sure. I agree. Keep going.
Yep.
All right. Alex is going to give us a quick overview of the portal, I think. I'm just going to flip over.
Perfect. Awesome.
All right, so that's cool. We can see.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, a couple of different things I can show from the actual uSecure platform, so you can see how it looks like. What we're discussing with Liam is the first thing. So about the gap analysis and about how we'll be able to offer people custom courses. So if I pick the specific employee from the platform, you can see his results on the initial gap analysis that we discussed. So you can see that he scored really low on phishing, but really high on passwords. So our platform will see this and basically decide that this employee, he does not need to be trained on passwords because he scored everything correctly on this topic. But phishing is a key, I guess, critical area for him. So our platform will see this and decide to train this employee on phishing first. It's all about identifying where the gaps are for every employee and basically covering that with courses. So that's it. Then he's going to be trained on public Wi-Fi because you see he scored quite low on that topic, and then security at home. It's fully automated. There's very low inputs or insight required from anyone, which is quite good. It's quite easy to set up, and you have a lot of content that is pre-built. So you've got almost 250 courses available. It can be about compliance. It can be industry specific as well. It can be about, for example, ISO, about AI. You have a lot of things now. For example, if I do AI tools, because I guess everyone uses that now, it's like ChatGPT with Claude, because I'm guessing everyone here uses some AI tools to some extent anyway. So what you can do with it is still not very known by people. That for ChatGPT will take your data. So you cannot enter customer information on ChatGPT. It's not possible. People still do it though. So
I think that's really common one. At Klipboard we've done AI fluency and safe use of AI training, for example, and it might sound obvious to IT people, but like you say, if you're non-IT people, you need to tell them don't put information into this, right? And so there's got to be a lot of people or businesses that need to be running those kind of courses, you would think.
Yeah, exactly. It's now it's very global. I feel like in the past people would have maybe an antivirus and you have to be trained on that. That's basically it. But now you've got there's so much because everyone is connected really. So even stuff like social media is a big thing. What you can post and what you cannot post. We spoke about like the USB driver earlier. Like there's like so many topics that people should be trained on. That's why you got a pretty like big library. But again, the platform will decide what people should be trained on. So you won't have to take, I guess, that decision, because it can be a bit overwhelming with the amount of content we offer. So
For sure.
but then again, if people work in a specific industry or sector, you can tailor that. So if I do finance, you're going to have more finance courses like finance scams or like end of year tax scams. So you can basically send those courses specifically to the finance team as well. So it's also about like tailoring the courses to the department people work in.
Yeah.
So that's that. And last bit is the reporting very quickly on the training, because that's something you want to have a look at. After a couple of months of using the platform, you can see everyone's statistics, and you can see that, for example, some specific employees score really high on the courses, but some other people score really low. So again, it's all about identifying people who struggle a bit more with cybersecurity. So you can go to those employees, work with Klipboard to maybe like watch a video together, discuss phishing, discuss cybersecurity to essentially help them know a bit more about these topics. Also about courses, we spoke about AI, but we see from our customers, like statistically, that AI is the course where people struggle the most with. So that's something that as well you might want to train your employees a bit more on the training. That's essentially how it works. On the phishing, again, we discussed it with Liam earlier. You want to make sure people get very realistic attacks now, because that's what they get in real life. So you cannot really afford to send employees again like a LinkedIn attack, for example. It doesn't work. It's not enough anymore. It used to be like before AI, like 5 years ago, but now it needs to be a bit better than that. So let me show you a couple of templates that we offer that will help with that. You've got about 500 for the UK, so a lot of content available. If I do, so like 530, and the emails would look like, I'll just pick a Microsoft example because they're the most relevant ones, but you're going to have emails looking like this. So it'll be about backup, it'll be about launching your device, it'll be about SharePoint, for example. So it can be about anything. And what you can do with the platform is you can take those emails and also customize them to make them even more realistic. For example, you're going to have an email will come from like a SharePoint, for example. You can make it come from someone inside the business. It can be a colleague, it can be head of IT, it can be yourselves, for example, it can be a supplier, etc. It's all about making sure people get attacks they would get in real life.
Yeah.
So hundreds of possibilities. Liam, what do you see from, again, your clients? What kind of attacks do you like typically stimulate? Is it emails coming from someone in the business? Is it from a supplier? Like what's the response rate from those campaigns typically?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say most of the time attacks are coming from like a known sender. Yeah, so somebody's been compromised. Maybe it's a supplier or customer, for example, and then they're sending out from their mailbox through to you as a customer or whatever relationship you have to them. And that's what really makes, for me, this kind of training really important, right? Because those emails are coming from what's normally a fairly locked down or a sending system with a good reputation, especially if it's another Microsoft 365 sending to another Microsoft 365. It doesn't really go outside, and it doesn't really go past some of the outside sort of controls. So it's much more likely it's going to land in your inbox, right? Or a Gmail is another one where they've got everything signed on the way out as it goes out. So it's like your inbound server or 365 says, yeah, look, this email looks good, which means all your sort of detection methods will pass, or fail, if you like, because it will get through. And it really gets to these kind of things that are, the email types that we see coming through. Someone shared a document with you, over and over, DocuSigns, I still see a lot of stuff I think shouldn't get through, if I'm honest with you, but the majority of the time, it's another compromised tenant, which takes out a lot of my email security will filter it away, right? Because it's a known sender.
So clear. Well, what do you recommend, Liam, for people? Because as you said, like emails can get through sometimes, even though most of them will be blocked by Microsoft and so on. So what do you recommend for employees who get suspicious emails to do, even if they get an email that could not be like a phishing attack?
They should report. They should report them, right? So use the buttons within Outlook. You can report the email to your IT team, and that's the number one helper for the IT team straight away to know that there's stuff getting through that perhaps shouldn't. You've got to imagine, as a person looking after email, there's literally thousands of emails coming in and out of a business every hour, right? And being able to weed through them all and look and see what should have got through and shouldn't have got through is virtually impossible at this stage. So you're relying on like bulk data, which summarizes kind of what's going on and says, oh, we had 24,000 emails came through and 500 were bad and whatever from the system. The second part is the reporting from the end users that are telling you that stuff is getting through that they think shouldn't be there.
Exactly. Automation is very important in those situations because, as you said, there's so many emails being sent, so many emails to. It's a huge task, realistically.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, if you're ever interested in trying out the platform, we can discuss this a bit later at the end of the webinar. But you could eventually try out these templates against your team to see how they react to them. It's typically quite eye-opening exercise because you might think, oh yeah, no one's going to get compromised. But if you tailor the email a little bit, make it a bit more realistic, we can catch a lot of people. So yeah. Very quickly, we can touch on the policy element because it is something that's quite relevant because of compliance, but just because employees need to know about this. So from the platform, you have about 50 policies already pre-built that you can send to employees. It can be about passwords, how to use your password correctly in the business, how it should look like, that kind of stuff. It can be about AI, like what are you allowed to enter inside an AI tool? That's a pretty common question people will have, and having like a document covering this is important. The tool is fully automated. You can have your policies already on the platform. If you have anything pre-built, you can import it to the solution, send it to the employees automatically. People will have to read them, inside them electronically, and everything will be recorded on the platform. So you can effectively make sure that new employees during the induction period get those documents, that they read through it, and they understand the material, and that it will be recorded here in case someone comes in for an audit or for compliance.
Excellent.
So very simple.
Yeah. Really helpful if you're a small business, perhaps you haven't got an extra, larger businesses will have a workflow system, Monday or ADP or something like that. But, majority of smaller businesses, this is a piece of paper, basically, printed off and signed, isn't it? Yeah. And this is the modern version.
Exactly. Plus, I'm guessing you see this too, Liam, is that most like smaller companies, they don't have like an HR rep that typically wants to do that. So it's on the IT person that's typically not his job that has to like manage policies. So again, it's another task that could be taken away from you through the platform.
Yeah.
The last bit would be for the dark web. It's really linked with the policy and the training and phishing. This one is all about being able to identify if employee credentials were leaked on the dark web. For example, you can have employees, again, they've not been trained on cybersecurity. They use their professional email to sign up to websites that were then caught by a breach. Something we see quite often is for discounts for like shopping like websites, like Zara, for example, or like Uniqlo. You get like a 20% discount if you sign up with a new email address. So people might think it's fine to do that because these are like famous websites, but then they can get hacked. And if the employee uses the same password on Zara as on Microsoft, then someone could get compromised. They could have access to everything, and that can be pretty bad. So we're going to have all of this documented here. So you can see everyone's name, emails, breach count, and you can effectively review everything. So we recommend you filter by date. And if you see anything that's quite new, where password was compromised or credit card details, you can go to the employee and effectively let them know that they should not be using their emails for that. If the password has been reused on other websites, then they should stop doing it. So yeah. Again, Lim, quick question for you. What do you guys typically around that space? What do you tell customers about how to use passwords, about the dark web? How do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, it's challenging, but I think ultimately the best and strongest advice that we give people is to use a password manager, and that's purely because this kind of attack relies on the fact that you use the same password everywhere, right? And so, as you just outlined, Alex, if it gets leaked in one place, immediately whoever's got hold of that details is going to try all the obvious stuff straight away. Microsoft, Dropbox, Amazon, Gmail, everything is going to get sprayed with that detail straight away. And if any of those are the same password, like you say, that could lead to something, somebody getting in. So password management or password manager application, something like 1Password, Keeper, etc., absolutely the best way to go to protect. However, it's still a hard tool to adopt, depending on the people in question, shall we say,
Although I feel like as an end user, having a password tool, once you download it, once you start using it, after a few months, you don't switch back. You
No,
don't go back.
you never do.
Need to keep it because you have all your passwords and so on. So it's really like the adoption of Lane can be a bit difficult for some people, a bit more like old school. But once they have it and they see the value of it, they never stop using it.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing that will help is when we can truly get more passwordless as well, right? So at the moment, I think it's still improving, but ultimately when we can drive through whether it's FIDO keys or whatever sort of passwordless authentication methods we can use, that's really going to make such a big difference then to that kind of credential stuffing problem. You don't know what your password is, it's the thing that you've got with you, and that just takes that problem.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That was a quick overview of the platform. Again, if you want to see more, we can discuss it in the other webinar, but we can do free trials and so on. So I'll just stop sharing my screen for now.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Sure.
I'm just going to flick back to the deck. That should be popping up on the screen now. What does good look like? And so, look, Alex has given us a really good overview there, very, very detailed in terms of the different areas of uSecure. And in order, I think, to have a effective human risk process or human risk management process in the business, though, we need to think broader than just uSecure. And I'm looking at this in terms of 3 layers. So behavioral, which is very much where uSecure comes in. As you can see, it can address the training requirements, simulating what the attackers are doing, improving the culture, and some of the things that we've talked on. But then we've got to look at the technical controls as well that we apply around the system. So making sure we're not giving people too much access, making sure we're controlling how they get in and out of the system, where they can get in and out of the system, actually thinking about the front door, whether it's email or the firewall as well. So there's very much some technical controls that help towards reducing risk. And then you've got the process, which is where we were talking earlier about procedures, say transferring money, changing things in the system, whether it's security, for example, and then thinking about access in the sense of, when someone leaves the business, we need to make sure that their account gets shut down, for example. When someone joins the business, we need to make sure that they are set up in a secure way, the same as everyone else. And there's, there isn't something that gets missed in the process that creates additional risk, right? So, these to me are the sort of core layers that we need to work on in order to really drive the reduction of risk. And just talking about the culture as well. So, clicks are going to happen. People are going to fall for stuff. Somebody might plug in the USB drive that they find in the car park or scan the code or whatever it is. This kind of stuff is going to happen. Yeah. The way that the business reacts when that happens is really important in how successful this kind of process of management of risk is going to be in the future, right? Because if somebody's brave enough, or whatever word you want to use, to say, look, I did something, and they put their hand up and say, I got it wrong, and we react in the way of what are you thinking, that's going to deter everyone else in the business who sees that reaction from giving us all that valuable intelligence of everything that is working, everything that is falling into that Venn diagram with the overlap at the start, which is what really fuels this whole endeavor of reducing the risk, right? So we can't link it to disciplinary or performance reviews where we say, oh, you didn't click any bad links this month, Alex, so tick in the box for you, and so on. We can't do any of that, because as it says in the middle of that bottom one, the moment we stop getting clicks reported, we're losing that real-time intelligence, right? And the final part on this is this on the right hand side. So yeah, we're absolutely talking about the click rate. Yeah, the click rate, we want the click rate to go down. We want to stop people from doing stuff. We said at the very beginning, it's about reduction of the number of incidents, but also the reporting rate is also a really good metric to be measuring as well, right? Because that's telling you that people aren't falling for them anymore, but things are getting through and they're actually delivering that information back to you. That's telling you your security culture is improving, is working, right? It's really, really useful statistic in how successful you're being in your program. So culture, super important for me in terms of this. Just in terms of 3 things that you could do today. Number one, as we've said, just send out, and if it's your responsibility, send out that email that says, look, if you do click something or you do something, just tell us fast, right? Tell us, nothing's going to happen, but it's much better for us if we can contain it and deal with it much quicker and we understand what it was and why it happened. The second one is thinking about, in your business, where's the overlap of those roles and attacks, right? The danger zone, and using AI will help you to pick apart that process. So let's say you take your finance AP, or some sort of transfer process, and you brain dump that process into a ChatGPT or a Claude or whatever your approved AI tool is. Then ask it to be adversarial. So say, okay, pick holes in this process. How would you exploit it? Going to find some really interesting ways it's going to help you to perhaps strengthen that process. And that can really go down to the bottom one as well. So audit the 3 layers. What have you got in behavior? What have you got in technical? What have you got in process? What are you missing? These are all free. They cost you nothing but time, realistically. But if they're done in the right way, they're going to help you reduce the risk. And so to finish off now, Alex has, as he said, kindly offered everybody a free trial of the uSecure suite of applications guided by Klipboard IT. So you can step through all those areas, the emails, the phishing, the reporting, the policy, everything else. I mean, what kind of stuff can they get done, Alex, in the trial that we can run with them and yourself?
Well, they can get the gap analysis, the first thing, like the whole quiz we spoke about earlier. I'll be able to add gaps in the knowledge of people. A phishing attack as well. I think that's the most important thing, because if you've never run one before, you have no idea how good your employees are at spotting phishing emails. So to me, that will be the key thing: being able to work with the Klipboard team to work on a custom phishing email and see how people react to it.
Yeah, really, really interesting to see what lands and how many people sort of click it. And if you're thinking about the other layers, that's where in the sort of middle section there, Klipboard IT, are experts in cybersecurity and cloud and Microsoft 365, and we can help in sort of address some of those other areas. And then just sort of before we get into the questions, look into next month. So we've really focused on prevention. As I say, next month is about managed detection and response with Petra security, or identity threat detection and response, which is talking about how, if somebody does something or somebody does get into your Microsoft 365, how quickly can you react? What can managed detection and response do, and automation and all those kind of wonderful things. So that's kind of the other side of what we've been talking about today. But look, let's go into the questions and just see if we've got any more. Let's have a look. Okay. So Alex, quick question for you. I mean, how much work is this for the IT team to manage sort of day to day?
Honestly, it's very hands off. The initial config with the Klipboard team can take 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We have integrations with Google and Microsoft anyway, and obviously we can work on custom phishing attacks, but then everything is set up automatically. So I would say on a monthly basis, pretty much nothing, because reports are sent out automatically to people, reminder emails as well. So yeah, it's very limited.
Okay. And so in terms of getting it up and running, you've got integrations there with things like Microsoft 365 and Gmail, so we can just lift and shift the users into the solution and sort of use them throughout in terms of how we apply stuff to them.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And because of the integrations, you can make sure that new employees who join the business also get added to the platform. They also get the gap analysis, the first phishing attack. So that's important. Again, we spoke about induction earlier, but making sure those new employees are also trained, because you don't know what they know about cybersecurity it's pretty essential.
Yes. So as an IT person, that makes me really happy that actually it's just going to automatically put that user into the training, the phishing, and all of that, rather than another step in that new person joining the business process, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Look, I think that's everything. So Alex, thank you for your time today. Thanks for taking us through. It's been really interesting. And to everyone else, thank you for listening and joining us as well. If you do have any questions, you're interested in running a trial, feel free to get in touch with your account manager and ask about Klipboard IT. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day as well. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks, everyone.
All right, take care. Bye.